Hey guys, welcome to the Menswear Mindset podcast. I am Austin Robertson,
And I am your second host, Louis Jeremita.
and we wanted to bring this podcast to you of just two, young men in the men's retail industry, just talking about, what makes us passionate about men's retail and old style haberdashery ness. It's not even a word, is it?
It could
Haberdashery-ness?
be. It will be
Okay.
after we pop off.
Man, we're already starting trends. I mean, we're already successful. That's what's
That's
happening here.
that's why you know this is the podcast to listen to.
We're kind of a big deal already. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are on the ground floor of greatness. So, we should just say that you're welcome already.
I think that's it. I think that's episode 1 right there.
All
Where
right. Well, tune in next week. It's just going to continue to get better from here.
yeah, exactly. But no, this is I mean, I know for me, the reason for wanting to start this podcast is just because it's a great addition to what we're both already doing with working in retail, doing Instagram, YouTube. I don't know, do you do like a lot of written content or
I've tried. I think I've started like two different blogspot blogs, but I never continued it. I think I've only maybe posted two in about 7 years after I started the first one. But I just felt like there needed to be an aspect of some type of visual content, whether that was a video or whether that was a picture. And so that's why I started YouTube for a while, and then I just lost the passion for that, and then I did Instagram for a while, and then I just felt like I was being a stereotypical influencer, and that's not really my goal. So I've dabbled in a little bit. I've actually gotten back into YouTube, so I'm just trying out different things.
and what's your channel for anyone listening who might not know who you are?
So my channel is Gentleman's Avenue, and that is actually my Instagram handle as well. Check me out at Gentleman's Avenue, all one word and spelled out. The specific reason for that is when I first got into menswear, I was just thinking, what am I going to call myself? What is this going to be? And I didn't want to use the word fashion, but I didn't want to use the word dapper because I felt like that could be overused. And I just love the word gentleman. And then the word avenue, to me, it represented a specific place to go. And so I wanted to be the specific place that you would go for your menswear needs. And this was before, I decided to get in retail. I was just thinking I was going to be a voice of sartorialism or something like that. And I just wanted those words to say, if you are wanting to be a true gentleman and understand what dressing well and living an elegant lifestyle and how a man should live, this is the place to go. So that's why Gentleman's Avenue just stuck. So it's on YouTube. I think I have like 120 subscribers. So thank you for those who subscribed. I didn't really think it would get beyond like seven, but I've got 120 people in the world. So that's fantastic.
That's such a good feeling when it's like people start following you on like a platform that you just start out on, and it's
Hmm.
like there's no reason for them to follow me other than the fact that they like my content. Like obviously
Absolutely.
some are going to be family and friends, but like those random people, it's like I'm doing something good here.
There are people whenever I do Instagram stories or anything like that, I'll post just a specific topic, whether that has to do with menswear or what's going on in my life. And there are plenty of people that we've actually had pretty solid conversations, but I don't know anything about them. I've never met them in person. But I think that's what's cool about social media is that it's a tool to bring people together, and it can easily set you up to compare yourself to others, but it can really bring yourself closer to a lot of people.
Exactly. And being able to find communities of people that just love the same thing that you're into is huge because right now where I'm living at in Erie, Pennsylvania, to find this group of people that like the same stuff and dressing well and classic menswear and even like trendy fashion stuff, you don't even see that like anywhere. You got to like really
Absolutely.
dig. But social media is just so easy. And that's why we're starting another form of media, podcasting.
Absolutely. So let's dive into it a little bit. So I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but why the menswear mindset? Like why are we calling it the menswear mindset? So we can bring people in on this journey that we're starting.
Yeah, I mean, from our little brainstorming session yesterday, I think it was, we
Yep, that was just last night.
we really both, have this passion to help men not only like buy clothes and wear, like just wear nice clothes, but actually have a good reason on why they're wearing clothes, and to understand like, hey, I can wear something nice and actually be intentional about it, and it's more than just even just a first impression. It's how you
Yeah.
mentally feel, how you're holding yourself, and also like physical performance can be enhanced when you dress well. And I know that's one thing that when I got into style and fashion, which we'll get into a little bit later, is that like there is so much more to it than just the aesthetics. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what I want, and I'm pretty sure Austin agrees because he said he did. But that we both want to be able to have a podcast that's not like your typical men's fashion. Hey, don't wear this kind of collar with this kind of tie because it's going to look bad. But like actually digging into one, the retail side of it, because we're both future retail store owners in one way or another.
Hmm.
Um, so we have a passion for that, as well as just having a different way, a different outlook on men's style. And the
Hmm.
other reason why I like podcasts so much, and I'm kind of rambling, but that's why I like podcasts, is because you can ramble. You can just talk about a subject more in depth and go off on rabbit trails that Instagram, YouTube content really isn't suited for.
Well, it feels a lot more like the boundaries are a lot further because with Instagram or YouTube or something like that, well, I'd say actually specifically Instagram, you're only allotted a certain amount of time on a story.
Mm-hmm.
And, with a podcast, this is a place that we can go, a little more in depth. And one thing I wanted to add on with, what you're talking about with this platform is when we were coming up with a name, we were trying to figure out, what we were going to talk about, how we were going to, what angle we were going to come at this podcast with. And specifically the words menswear mindset. I mean, this is very focused, but the mindset is, to educate and to help men understand what it looks like to dress well and understanding fabrics and fit and different things like that. Because Lewis is an actual tailor, and I call myself a menswear expert. I mean, I'm not a clothier, I'm not a tailor, I'm not actually doing the alterations, but I'm the salesman on the floor who comes in, I'm fitting you, I'm taking a look at you, what
You're the
works best.
stylist.
Yeah, and so I'm the stylist on that. And so I'm getting to know you as a person to be able to communicate to the tailor what needs to happen to make this person look well, look great and proportional to, what flatters them the most. And so we want to use this platform as a place to help you understand better. And we're coming from the retail perspective of it.
Yeah, and also not even just, that all in general, but also just to talk to people who are already in it like us, other people who are
Yeah,
into
absolutely.
retail that just want to have a conversation with other people in retail. That's kind of an area that I'm most excited about with this podcast, is that hopefully if it grows legs and walks, that we'll find people that are in the same boat as us and can like help grow the knowledge that we're starting to learn, because I'll be straight up and honest. I'm just starting at all this. So there's no way I'm going to label myself as knowing it all already. So it'll be a cool documentation of our journey through retail, men's fashion, which is like an ever growing orb for individual
Yeah,
personal style.
yeah. So let's get into you first. So
Me. You're so
we,
you're
we
such a gentleman.
I am ladies first.
Wow.
We we want you guys to get to know us personally, because essentially a podcast is a conversation
Yeah.
that thousands of people are listening to, but only two people are contributing to
Mhm.
initially. So I mean, it is kind of an odd platform, but we want to make this very personal to you guys. So again, if you have any questions, you can reach out on Instagram. My handle is Gentleman's Avenue. Lewis, what's your Instagram? Because you
Aspiring
got two, don't
gent.
you?
Well, I have one that's
Aspire.
mainly for like my business content, which if you're into that, it's Lewis. I don't even remember. I've changed it so many times. I think it's Lou A. Jeremita.
Yes, it is.
Geramita. But I know I've changed it once to like fit the other podcast I do, but then I think I changed it back. But the main one for fashion that you guys will probably be interested in is just Aspiring Gent. _gent.
So how did you get into retail? From the time you were born to where you are now, fill us in.
So at the age of 2, I walked into my first store, sold a few suits. Um, no, actually, the
You walked in,
retail
I
journey,
thought it was suits.
honestly, kids would probably be great salespeople. Let's be honest. If you had like a
They're
little
so
like 5-year-old selling you a suit, um, I mean, I'd buy a suit from a 5-year-old. But anyways, rabbit trails.
I would be suckered in. I don't know if I'd pull the trigger, but I would listen to a sales pitch.
That's true. It's a good way
And
to
if his
get your
sales
foot in
pitch
the
is
door.
like true, but if his sales pitch was like buy this or I'm gonna cry, like I don't want to make a kid cry, so
No, you
do what
got
you
you.
got to
He
do.
got you there.
He did.
I might have to bring that up to my boss. We're gonna start employing children. Got to check the labor laws on that, but
Child labor.
yeah.
You heard it here, folks. Yeah, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Louis Jeremita encourages child labor.
I don't encourage. I just think that it could be a good idea one day. We'll keep that open. Just kidding. Just a
So,
joke. We
yeah,
like
we
probably
should
have
really,
like we probably have like 4 people listening to this right now, and we have dropped off to like 1, and it's probably one of our parents.
I thought this was menswear and they're promoting child labor.
They're like, they're not even talking about clothes. But my
So
story.
speaking of literally anything else,
Yeah, my story. So into getting into retail is actually part of like the latter part of, which not really latter part of my life because I'm only 22, but more recently is the menswear side. But I just remember like growing up, just getting into style and fashion in general. I hated any form of dress clothes. But while I was like preparing for this beginning podcast, I was like really thinking, I was like, yeah, I hated dressing up. I hated I didn't care what I wore. But the more I thought about it, as a child, I actually was very intentional about what I wore. I just didn't know what it was saying. I didn't know what went well together. And I didn't understand that actually wearing the dress clothes that I hated so much was going to help me look better and have a better appearance to other people. So as a kid, I was very, very conscious about what I wore, but it was usually camo cargo shorts and like punny t-shirts that I thought everyone just found hilarious. And it wasn't until I actually learned like the history of menswear and how a button-up shirt or a double-breasted jacket actually has like a heritage behind it. I was like, hey, this is a pretty cool manly thing to do. And then I kind of dove into that. And as I did that, I looked into starting a blog, becoming an influencer, air quote for you people who are, I should have put my phone on silent.
wow, good job. You
Frick.
failed already.
Frick.
Wow, 2 F words.
I said frick. Come on, man.
That's 3.
Come on, man. Just throw me under the bus here.
Okay, I was homeschooled. Okay, I'm very sensitive to those
I was
words.
too. And my mom's probably listening, so I wouldn't swear. All right?
That's about as close as you can get to swearing. Fudgesicles.
Fudgesicles. Biscuit-eating bulldogs.
That's new.
It is a new one. I heard it a while ago, though. But where was I? Yeah, getting into men's fashion. So I learned the history, got really interested into it, wanted to start teaching people, even though I knew nothing about it. I was like, to be completely honest, I was like, this is a great way to make money. But aside from that, then I actually started growing in my style, and it's really cool to go through like my Instagram and see how it's like progressed since the beginning. And then I found a job as a tailor 2 hours away from my abode. I moved to Erie, Pennsylvania, became a tailor, and then I slowly introduced myself into the retail side of the business because just doing the tailoring wasn't cutting it, and being able to make commission checks were really good. And plus, it was just kind of to scratch that itch to talk to people about style, and kind of like what you were saying, like actually helping influence men to go from where my perspective was when I started to where I am now, and just like seeing that like light switch in people is just, I don't know, it's just one of the coolest things.
Yeah, when that clicks, I mean it's priceless. I mean, our industry is a business, but that's what gives it substance. Because if you think about it, we're selling guys laundry. We sell clothes. But when you see the joy on their face, when they get it, when you can see them stand up straighter and they're confident, that's what makes it I mean, that's it. I mean, that's really why we're in it.
For real. Like the times when people come in and they're just like, I need a suit. Oh, well, what kind of suit are you looking for? It doesn't matter. And it's like, by the end of it, you have them actually picking the patterns that they want. It's like, I did
Yep.
my job and I feel really good about it.
And there's that development side of it because they can start to see what they like and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. One thing I did want to backtrack because I think this could be a good point of um, a good point of conversation is what was the reason that you hated dress clothes when you were younger?
I thought it was like what like dorky people wore. I was like
Okay.
polos and like it was just like that stereotypical like nerd. I was like, those are the people I make fun of. I don't want to imitate them. And I thought that
Okay.
cargo shorts was like that bad boy look. But
Yeah, it's a bad boy look because you look bad.
I,
Cargo shorts are just not, they're not flattering at
no, there's
all.
nothing about cargo shorts that like there's no reason that you would wear them and think like I'm making a good impression unless you're
Yeah,
in some kind of business where having multiple pockets is looked highly upon, I guess.
I think if you're like a painter or if you work in the labor industry or something like that, I mean, it makes sense to put tools and stuff in there, but guys are usually just putting them on and wearing them with Crocs, which I don't know why you would wear Crocs out in public, but I see way too many guys wearing it and they look terrible.
I don't care how freaking comfortable they are. There's no reason to wear them other than
They
like
look terrible.
they do. They look terrible. I mean, if you're wearing them around your house, I could care less. But if you're going out in public, like, have you really given up on life that much?
Who was it? It was uh, to paraphrase Carl Lagerfield or something. He said, wearing sweatpants are a sign that you've given up on life. I'm going, I mean, even though he wasn't the best man, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Or even just the fact that you've given up in that moment. You know what I mean? Like there's times I'm guilty of it and it's like and not saying like you every time you go out you have to change if it's like running for an errand or something, but it's like there's times where I'm just in sweatpants and I'm like, okay, I've got to run to the gas station and grab something. I'm just going to go. But in that moment, I just gave up. I was like, not even going to try.
Just quit life.
Life is over for me until tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning. But
So, being in menswear, what is what would you say your goal in menswear is? What is your mission statement?
my mission statement in a nutshell, and I should probably have this like so I can just say it right off the top, but it's like really trying to inspire the gentleman of like tomorrow, I guess you could say. So it's kind
Mm,
of like embedded in the name, aspiring gent. It's kind of like a twofold name where it's the documentation of me aspiring to be a gentleman and it's more of like lifestyle, although I don't talk about lifestyle stuff, but like in all areas of life, as well as I hope it's content that inspires people to become
mm.
gents. So I guess that's my biggest passion is to help the younger generations that were young like me and were like, this is stupid. Why would I dress well? Rather than like helping the older generations. But I mean, I'll do both. I really just more passionate about getting that message out there. But it would probably be something along the lines of building gentlemen of tomorrow.
Yeah,
But I mean,
I
and
like.
I was such a stubborn kid growing up, and I think that's why.
We all were. Let's
What?
be honest.
What?
I said we all were. We
Yeah.
were all toots.
And like that was
Hard.
like my biggest issue with style was like I thought I looked cool and I didn't. So I
Yeah.
want to be that guy who's like, "Hey kid, you look like crap. Go change."
Excuse me, I burped. Um,
Not in a
there's
condescending way, in a loving way though. I want people to know that. I'm not walking around telling kids they look like crap. In my
great,
head maybe, but
great for our youth of America. Uh, I think what's interesting, and we're going to tackle this later on in this episode, but really now, I mean, so many people are going business casual, and I mean that's God, that's so muddled. No one actually knows what business casual
yeah.
is. They just know casual, like it's not a suit and tie. I mean, that's basically what business
Mhm.
casual is. It's not a suit and tie, but that's like the only requirement. I mean, no one. there is not one version of business casual. There's like 12 different versions. And so um, I think honestly now the rebel is the guy in a suit and tie because he doesn't have to dress up. He dresses up because he gets to and he wants to. And he's making a statement. And,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people look at it and think, oh, you're conforming. Oh, you're corporate America or whatever. If you really look at corporate America, it's really starting to get more and more casual. Like outside of politics and specifically in America, I mean, you look at Goldman Sachs, I mean, that was one of the last pillars of men dressing well every single day, and they've gone casual. And to me, I mean, that's kind of sad to see, but it's also encouraging at the same time because it seems like now a suit and tie has more relevance because it's almost rebellious now.
Mm-hmm.
It's got more a rebellious attitude to it than it did before.
Yeah, and I think it would be really cool to do a whole podcast on just like business dress codes in particular because I have like a ton of opinions on those. But just like in quick, I'm super pumped that the whole world is becoming more just business casual to casual dressing for the reason that you mentioned is like it's more rebellious and kind of cool to be the guy in the suit. Like, hey, you show up an event and I'm wearing a suit and everyone's not. It's like all eyes go straight to you. So that in itself just opens the door to so many opportunities for you to like capitalize on what you wear. But
Yeah,
also, it really just exposes who cares and who doesn't. Because
true.
when you went to work at like a bank and they were like you have to wear a suit, that guy who didn't care, who's now just wearing polos and like khakis now, he was wearing a bad fitting suit, probably with some very dumpy shoes, and didn't care
Hmm.
then either. Now he can at least be comfortable, and you can try and help those people in a more comfortable setting to actually just care about what they wear. So, hey, maybe Bob is wearing polos and a khaki today, but maybe tomorrow you can get him to wear a button up in khakis. And then maybe the next day you can wear him button up in slacks and then get him into a sport coat. And you can kind of work from the ground up rather than like, hey, you have to wear a suit every day, buy a nice one and look good.
Yeah, and to add on something that you were saying, we're not saying in any stretch of the matter that dress up to bring eyes to you. I mean, personally, for me, that's not my goal in dressing well. I don't believe that's yours, Lewis, either. But when you're dressed well, people are just going to stare. I
Mm,
mean, it's just going to happen because it's not familiar in our culture now because we've gotten so casual, and so people are going to look, and so don't dress for them. You need to dress for you first and foremost because
mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about it, a necktie has no function, and you and I are both wearing neckties right now, but has absolutely no function outside of decorum
Yeah.
because, some guys would be like, well, you can wipe your mouth with it. A good
Why
handmade
would you
tie,
wipe your mouth for the time?
there's guys who actually do that. And it's like the
That's
cheap
disgusting.
set Jerry Garcia ties, and they're just like, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's okay. I'm like, that's just, it's sloppy.
Dead.
And so it was Simon Perlifricht or something. He works for Hodinkee, but he used to have a blog talking about clothing, and he talked about neckties, and he said we don't need neckties, but we need neckties. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going. Perf. That is the perfect oxymoron to describe neckties because it's not like if you think about it, there's actually no need for a necktie, but there's a need for a necktie.
Oh, for sure. And
And so,
kind of going off of what you said a little bit ago about not dressing so people look at you, I kind of find myself straddling that fence a lot because the way I look at it is the same way I look at business is wherever the attention is where the opportunity is. So, if
true,
I'm going to
true,
an event, I most definitely want to dress so that everyone notices me because at that event that's where I have the most impact. But then again, I'm
yeah.
not doing it just so that when I walk in, everyone leaves like, oh, Lewis was the best dressed guy here. That's not the idea. But there is most definitely, I think, one of the reasons why style is so important is you can use that attention and pretty much command an entire room with it.
Well, style. I mean, going off what you're saying, style is a tool exactly how money is because
Mm-hmm.
style shouldn't rule your life. Money shouldn't rule your life, but it should be used to catapult you to where you want to be. I mean, obviously, if you have more money, you're going to have more opportunity. The more well dressed you are, the more opportunity that you'll have to get in front of people, to have people talk to you. And it just, I mean, it makes you interesting. And the more
Exactly.
interest that you draw in, you're going to potentially turn clients to, for business. And so, you know, for me, I hope this is going to be a terrible segue, and I feel very self-conscious doing it, but I'm going to segue into my story.
I was
Um,
kind of hoping we'd just leave you out of it.
okay, well, we can do
No,
that too.
no,
I'll
I
just
was
go.
waiting for a
This
time to
this
introduce that, but no, this is perfect. Everybody be
great
quiet.
segue.
Austin's talking.
Fantastic segues. Um, I got into dressing well because I was actually bullied a lot when I was younger. I was actually bullied in the church that I grew up in, and I dealt with a lot of insecurity, low self-esteem. Had some suicidal thoughts at one point because I'm going, outside of my family, no one likes me, and that's what I believed, and that's the truth, quote unquote truth that I walked in. Excuse me, but I knew that wasn't true. I knew I couldn't do that to my family or anything like that. So I thought I'm about as low as you can get. So luckily, I can't get any lower. So let's try something. And I heard, I remember the term "dress for success." When you look good, you feel good. I go,
Mm.
I've got nothing to lose. Let's just try this out. So it started off wearing like a nicer pair of jeans to church, then a button up that had a collar, and then like a nicer pair of dress shoes, and then tucking your shirt in, and then wearing a necktie, and then putting a waistcoat over that. And it took time, but I started realizing that I liked this. I felt comfortable. I felt confident. Started to style my hair, and I was getting a lot of compliments from people. But that became the reason I was dressing well, because I was getting positive compliments from people, because I was so pegged out on the negative extreme of just feeling so low, that I switched to the other side of just dressing well to be a people pleaser, because that would be my only solution to get people to look at me in a positive way.
Mm.
So I realized that if I'm going to do this, there needs to be substance to it. It can't just be because I want people to look at me or anything like that. It can't be like that. So that's when I started developing my own style. That's when I started figuring out, okay, what do I feel confident in? It's not predicated on something else. It's not based off another person. It's based off me, if I like it or if I don't. So I experimented with some vintage clothing, and I tried out eBay, where that was a good way for me to one, understand brands, fit, but also quality as well, because being in college and wanting to dress well, you don't have a lot of money. It's
Mm.
either buy a packet of ramen noodles or get a $2 necktie at Goodwill or something like that.
Always go with the necktie.
Always go with the necktie. You can eat the necktie. So I started slowly but surely trying out different things to see what would work for me, and I realized that. So this is cool. So for my high school graduation, my parents bought me a three-piece tan polyester viscose blend suit from JCPenney. It was a J. Farrar.
Best.
And the moment I put that on, I instantly like stood up straighter, felt more confident, and I'm going. Just the first words that came into my mind were, "No one can touch you." And at that moment, that's kind of like where I was hooked. I'm going, this is a tool that can make you feel better. I realize the negative thoughts and feelings and everything that I'm dealing with right now, that I can help like share that with other people. So that's when I just started, making the effort to dress better and understanding quality and things like that. And I started at JCPenney, worked there for about 3 years. My first day started off sweeping crickets. Ended up working my way to the jewelry counter and became a manager. From there, I became a custom clothier and was doing outside sales for a couple clothiers. But honestly, the thing about custom clothing is I've worked with guys who have screwed me over. They just weren't good at running business and having guys work for them, and it really ruined a lot of relationships that I had with clients trying to provide a good product, and then they would kind of you know, the suit would take 4 to 6 weeks to make, but they wouldn't get it for 3 months. I'm going,
Hmm.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I looked at starting my own business, and then I was actually talking with manufacturers. It came out of 3 different manufacturers. As I was figuring out which one I wanted to go with, I started working at this men's haberdashery, this men's clothing store in Arlington, Texas, and it's called the Man Shop. And so, we carry sportswear to fully custom suits and everything in between. And what I loved about it is that there was that heritage associated with it, and it had a very strong clientele of like third generation clients, like their grandfathers would shop there.
Hmm.
And I realized that, yeah, I wanted to start something for myself, but luckily they were looking for somebody, and I came in, and I'm my business partner, who's the owner. I'm apprenticing under him right now, and the goal is to take it over potentially in the next 7 to 10 years. And that's something that I really want to do because it's already got a brick and mortar store that people can come in. We're building the relationships with people, but we're showing them and we're educating them uh, on good products. You may not be able to, you know, afford a $3,000 fully custom suit, but if you started a $500 suit, it's still a lot of money for some people. But if you invest that, get it tailored properly to you, and you understand what good fitting clothes can do for you, you slowly begin to build on top of that. It's
Hmm.
not you're just spending money just to look good. It's you understand the quality, and you're getting investments that are going to last longer and benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, and I kind of this is I think would be a great way to segue into just kind of the state of retail, just even for a little bit. Um, but I think that so many people, and it goes back to your story about how they were looking for somebody, and you just happen to be a guy who's young, who's interested in it. I think that there's so many missed opportunities in the men's retail space because currently, right now, people think that
So
it's going
right.
to die because of Amazon. And obviously, it's very scary. It's like the direct to consumer. Brands are going to stop selling to you. But especially in our cases with our stores, the store I work at is going to be 170 years old next year. Like
Wow.
the amount of history and like reputation that name holds, even if the retail side of it completely dies for some reason and it's all online and brands are just only direct to consumer in their own brick and mortars, starting from nothing rather than getting into a menswear store that already has a reputation, like to me it seems like kind of common sense that even if I buy the Isaac Baker brand and then turn it into my own line of socks in the future, having that 170 plus years is going to
That heritage.
help me other than just some guy who's like, "Hey, I'm making my own custom sock brand. Go follow me on Instagram. Socks for the
Yeah.
sockless.com." Like, I don't know, but
You can't buy heritage.
yeah, and
I
all
mean,
these stores are
it's
going to end up
impossible.
closing and you lose it all.
Yeah. And what I think is interesting, so I saw an article that Rolling Stones came out with recently, and vinyl is actually on pace to outsell CDs for the first time since 1986.
Really?
Records are going to outsell CDs. And so, I mean, a lot of people are buying, their music online, but so I'm going to tie this in. So I'm
Yeah.
going to pause that right here and do a little segue. So personally, the reason I love handmade suits is the perfect imperfections. Like when you look at the stitching, you notice that they're not all the same length. They're really really close, but it's not perfect because a tailor sat there and was doing it by hand. They were making sure that pick stitching was as clean as possible. They wanted to make sure that the seams laid and draped and naturally fell over the person's shoulders properly. And even though it's not actually perfect, like with a machine, I mean, it's just every single stitch is exactly the same. When it's done by hand, you know that someone sat there for hours stitching that garment together for you. So with records, like you kind of hear the scratching, the music comes in and out a little bit. I mean, it's still clear, but it's not perfect. And it kind of reminds you of, the good old days and, the
Mm-hmm.
days that we are very inspired by. And what encourages me about that is that that's kind of going to show because there's really a lot of young people, 35, 30 and under who are really buying a lot of records, and they're appreciating the specialty stores over the big box stores. Because, if you look at Dillard's, if you look at Macy's, if you look at Nordstrom's, these places used to have professionals that would study the product. They knew where the fabric was sourced from. They knew exactly. You would come in and they're like, bam, you're a 42 regular. Let's put this garment on you. Boom, 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 boom. You're good. Like, they've spent 30 plus years in this industry and they just know it. Now you get these high school kids who are just clerks, and they're like, you want to buy a shirt?
Yeah.
Okay, let's check out over here. And they have no idea what they're talking about, and they have no substance. They're not studied. They don't know how to dress in the first place. They're just throwing clothes on in the first place, but they don't know how to mix and match properly.
Yeah, it's hard enough for them to find the size that you need rather than find out where the garment's from.
Exactly. And so, with these smaller stores, even though, we might be struggling a little bit, people still appreciate it. I mean, people appreciate a well-dressed man. And now that, millennials are like, well, I want to make sure this is, if I'm, giving to something, I want to make sure it's going to a right charity, or, I want to make sure that this is sourced ethically or whatever. A lot of these stores, yeah, you are paying more of a premium, you are paying more, but you're investing into a person's life. I mean, if you think about that salesman, you're putting food on the table for them and their family. And then you're also, paying for the manufacturer, and you're paying for the workers there who are, making sure that everything is clean and that it's done properly. So you're not just buying a product, you're buying a story that has been executed, and you're the finished product. And so they're making a garment for you. It's not just a garment, it's your garment.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, like you mentioned, that kind of chain reaction where it was originally like independent stores, and then the box stores came and beat them out, and now Amazon is beating out the box stores, but it does open a whole new opportunity for the small shops to come back. And I noticed that because there was a bookstore, an independent bookstore that opened up in Erie, just like attached to a coffee shop. And I asked the owner, I was like, what the heck? Like, why are you guys opening this shop? Amazon has already killed bookstores. She was like, the funny thing is yes, it killed Borders, and it's killing Barnes and Noble and all these places, and all these independent places went out of business. But now it's kind of opening up that new wave of like, hey, I want to talk to somebody who loves reading as much as I do, not just going into the bookstore. I mean, going online and just buying one, reading it by myself, but having that community of people who are like-minded that aren't on the internet.
And you can buy those old books too, which is cool too, because, Amazon typically has they have pre-owned, but when you go to these bookstores, like, a lot of these people are going to trade shows and they're picking out and sourcing this stuff by hand. And one thing, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I was really excited about this. When some people say, like, why do I have to drive all the way across town to go to your shop? I can just buy it online. And I go, shake my hand. They're like, what? I go, shake my hand. And they shake my hand. And I go, can online do that?
Ooh, snap.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm going, you don't get this online. You might get a chat that pops up. You might get a phone call, like from Trunk Club or something like that. But you can't shake someone's hand. You can't build a relationship purely off of that. You can get close, but it's not going to be the face-to-face. And so there's some people who they don't have the time to go to shops like that. And they just want to shop online. If that's what you want to do, a specialty shop isn't for you. And that's not a negative thing.
No,
it's not the right place for you. What we try to do specifically at the Man Shop is, when you come in, like, for me, I'm building a client profile for you. So I know your measurements. I know what you like. I know what you don't like. So when you come in, you're going, hey man, I need a blue plaid suit. Bam, I've got a swatch. I can send it in to you. And you don't even have to come in. I'll send you a picture. Hey man, we've designed this for you in the past, or hey, this is what I'm thinking for you. All right. And we send it to them, and they don't even come in the shop. There's people who've been shopping with us for like, 20, 30 years. They haven't been in the shop in 5 years, but they buy constantly because we've built that relationship with them, and they know that they can trust us. And trust is very, very fragile. It takes years to build and a moment to break.
And as we were talking about with the decline of the dress code, it opens up a market of people who actually care about what they dress. And where I
Hmm.
will admit, Amazon's customer service is amazing. Their return policy is like the best thing in the entire world. But
It's
it's,
simple.
yeah, you don't even have to package your items anymore. You just go
Hmm.
hand them to a UPS employee and they'll package it, label it, ship it for, like, you do nothing. And it's super convenient. But the problem is when you're just buying clothes to cover your body, that's perfectly fine. Or if you're like us and you feel very well versed and you don't need somebody to coach you along and you feel like you understand things, sure, go for it. I
Yeah.
buy stuff on Amazon. But when it comes to Amazon, if you buy a shirt and it comes and it doesn't fit you, yeah, you can return it and get your money back really simple. But is that person on the other end going to be like, hey, well, why don't you try this brand because it's a little bit bigger in the armholes where it seems to be pulling? And if you try it in a different size, we can try and help you out with that. Or are they just going to be like, oh, okay, here's your money, buy something else? They're not.
Hmm.
They can't because they can't have that many people that knowledgeable on staff all the time. Whereas when you get the guys who actually care about what they're putting on, that's why they come to learn one how to put it all together properly, and if there's any issues, how to correctly identify and fix it pretty relatively quickly.
And if you look at some of the brands, like for example, Trunk Club, Not Standard, Indochino, they started off as online companies, and you're taking a product and you're having people measure themselves who don't know what they're doing.
Mm,
They don't know how to measure, and so they get a garment that's screwed up, and they're like, "Well, you made me a bad garment." It's no, you weren't measured the proper
mm-hmm.
way, and so these places have had to start, opening up actual storefronts for these people to go to, and they're going to have to work with a professional.
Exactly.
Where was that based from? That was based from, these specialty stores who have been around where your dad shops, where your grandfather shops, where your great grandfather shop. Yeah, it may seem like you're dressing like an old man, but if you notice it now, the old man is dressing in the polos and the big khaki dockers, like he's dressing business casual.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is too is
Young
like,
guys are dressing like this now.
yeah, and you can dress like the Indochinos at independent men's store. Like if I came into your store and I told you what I wanted my style to be, super like basic business formal, you can do that. It doesn't have to be that
Absolutely.
effortless. Oh, there's like this pick stitching and hand done this. Like it can be very like Harvey Specter from Suits looking if you want it to be. Because
Yeah.
if you go to a good clother, they have connections to all these other suppliers that they can fit any style that you want.
And that's where I try to find the balance. I'm very passionate about the details. I mean, I love knowing, it's handmade, there's this, there's that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And some people just don't care about that. And they're like, just put a suit on my back and I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
And so that's an easy sale. But for me, I want you to understand the details. I want you to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, some people just don't care about it, and some people do. And they go, man, I didn't realize that there were that many. I didn't realize that there were that many details and options and choices. I'm going, yeah. I mean, you
It's
can be very
custom.
expressive, and let me explain why you need to choose this detail, because based off what you just said, you need to choose this detail because it says this. Like your clothes speak for you before words even come out of your mouth. I think Forbes probably 4 or 5 years ago came out with the article. I wish I could, reference it right now, but they said within the first 2 to 30 seconds, I would venture as far to say it's like 2 to 15 seconds, that people are already going to base a first opinion about
Yeah.
you based off the first impression alone. And so, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, that clothing is a tool, exactly how money is. Clothing can speak for you. So what do you want it to say? Like for somebody like Kanye West, if he's wanting to do the streetwear, very artistic, whatever, if that's what you want to be known as, that's what your clothes are going to say about you. But for me, I for me, how I choose to dress, I want to dress in a very chivalrous, gentlemanly way, but I want to dress in a way that has some power to it. Like, listen, like I'm taking this seriously. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have fun, but I still take things seriously as well. So if I'm sitting down for an interview, or if I'm having a meeting with somebody, or if I'm going on a date, whatever that is, I want my clothes to convey a message the moment that they see me. And that's how it should be used, as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the solution or the surgery. I mean, it is essentially just a tool.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because I think that's what's going to make this podcast really cool. Is I said cool a lot right there, but what I think this is going to make this podcast very helpful to people is both of our perspectives on that. Because yeah, I think we both have that same kind of, we want to dress gentlemanly, refined, luxurious kind of look, but I mean, I think you the same way, is like we both also like experimenting with different
Mm-hmm.
things. And I think I might experiment probably a little bit more than you do, which I don't know if it's just because of my nature not to be able to like stay still for very long, but I think that's going to be also really cool going forward into this podcast, is just pulling from different areas, because I definitely see my style going more into a modern spin of things. So like the buttoned up shirts without ties, or just like sneakers with suits and t-shirts with blazers and stuff. Um, so I think it's going to be really cool to see like how that dynamic starts to like shift and grow. And because I'm
Yeah.
never going to like give up on that classic like Glenn Check
Oh yeah.
suit with the perfectly dimpled tie, but I don't know. I
And
feel like it's so hard to pinpoint my style sometimes. It's just like whatever I'm feeling that day,
yeah.
it can be.
And to comment on, what you just said, I and this is for me, I think my, like, for the majority, my experimental phase is over, because I kind of went through that,
Mhm.
and now I'm more in a refining stage. And so I'm trying those little tweaks. Like, I've tried different kinds of stuff. I've tried the pattern pants with a solid jacket. I've tried the trim look. I've tried the modman style. I've tried vintage. And so, I've kind of gone on the extremes of, I've liked this, and I really didn't like that. And now I'm just kind of honing it in a little bit more. And I mean, there's still the little details of, do I do a soft shoulder? Do I do a rope shoulder?
Mhm.
Do I want to do a half lined or a full line? And so my experimentation now is a lot more subtle, and not as noticeable. Subtle. No, I'm actually making that word now.
Second
It's
word we
more
just
subtle.
created. Subtle.
We're doing things, man. Subtle. So, and again, that just comes for me of realizing that, what, I really don't like this, or I do like this. I just know I'm more comfortable in pleated pants. Now I'm actually wearing flat front pants,
Mm,
and I don't like it. I'm not really comfortable in it. I mean,
really?
it's more of a full cut. Man, I'm not comfortable in it. It's just me. I mean, on my casual stuff, like if it's a chino or something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
flat front. But like for my dress trousers, I do it pleated, and it just drapes better. It's more comfortable. But that's just me. It took me forever to adopt the pleated trousers, but once I did, man, I'm not turning back.
Yeah. And I'm like definitely like envious of being able to like have a style and saying like, yeah, this is my style. This is what I like to wear. But I don't know if I'll ever get to that point. I just feel like that's like the
I think
same
you
reason.
will.
What's that?
I think you will. I mean, for me, I mean, your style will always kind of refine and adapt based off your life. But I think you're more experimenting now, but you're beginning to pinpoint and find those things what really puts a smile on your face, and that's what it should be. I mean, you shouldn't put it on your back if it doesn't put a smile on your face.
Mm, that was good.
Put that on a t-shirt,
That was good. And then put that on your back.
on the back of the t-shirt.
That puts a
The
smile on
smile.
your face. But no, because I don't know, like, because like for me, it's always like, same reason why I will never get a tattoo is I don't like keeping things the same way very long. Like I'll reorganize my room like once every like 4 months just because I'm like, sick of how it looks. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'll be the type of guy that you'll just like see me one day like sporting like the, what's that guy's name, Johnny Inyelli or Johnny whatever his name is, that like,
Uh, Gianni Agnelli.
yeah, be like, yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
like doing that like sprezzatura, like very classic wide lapel, like okay, yeah, that's his style. And then the next day it's like really short cut dress, like dress slacks with sneakers, no socks, and then like
Yeah.
a floral shirt. And it's like, I don't know if that's a downfall because people are just like, okay, where the heck is this kid going? Or if it's just, I don't know. We'll figure it out as time goes on.
And I mean, every fine wine takes years to become palatable. And so, it's going to take time. And so, for me, I feel like I've found a pretty good idea. I haven't found it there yet, but I feel my viewpoint is focusing and I'm getting more and more honed in. But with you, I mean, I can tell that you're not afraid to try different things. I've tried sneakers with a suit. It's just not me. But you're pretty bold in your self education, and you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try this out. That didn't work. Well, I learned this about it, and I really admire that because you're being very bold, and you're going to be very inspirational to a lot of people who are going to aspire to be a gentleman like you. See what I did there?
Austin, you're making me blush.
Stop.
But no, I do appreciate that. I think we should start wrapping up this podcast. I think we're at the 52-minute mark. So
I think that's a good place to stop.
let's kind of, because I think we're diving into a lot of things that could be their own independent episode that I don't want people to get bored the first one. So,
True.
Austin, let's give some parting words to the people listening to this podcast right now.
So I'm really excited to take this new venture with Lewis. We're going side by side into this thing and allowing it to develop naturally. And so, we've got some ideas of what we want to talk about next. And so, if any of you guys have any questions, please drop it down in the comment box below. You can send us messages, individually, email.
We might end up making a joint page for the whole podcast, but that's to be announced later.
Like Instagram or something like that.
Yeah.
But, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. I mean, with my Instagram, anytime I do a post that say, hey, if you want to know something, send me a message. We're normal people. We want to talk to you. I mean, this podcast is for you. Yes, we enjoy talking about style, but this is for you. We want to help you be a better man and better version of yourself through the tool of clothing.
Yeah, and everybody always is like, oh, not to bother you, but what do you think about this outfit? I'm like, you're literally not bothering me. I spend most of my time making content so people feel comfortable asking me these questions. I'm like, this is what I live for.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I second that. Definitely, if anybody has any suggestions, topics they want to talk about, or if they even just want to be a part of the conversation and be in an episode, let us know. We'd love to just talk to anybody interesting. You don't have to have any experience in the field, just an opinion. But no, I'm really excited to see how this style, men's retail, life as a retailer kind of podcast develops.
And I will try to get better lighting because I was using natural lighting in the sunset, and now I've only got this candle right here. So it's kind of a moody.
Very refined.
Very refined. Welcome to the Menswear Mindset. What are we going to talk about today? Tune in next time.
What are we going to talk about today? Tune in next time.
Yep. What are we going to talk about today? You'll find out next week.
Exactly. Because that's how we publish them and everything. But no, thank you guys for listening. Deuces from Aspiring Jen.
Goodbye from Gentleman's Avenue. That was probably the whitest thing I've said all day.
It's okay. Embrace your whiteness.